What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to show off Sentinel in even more matchups. This video is going to be a rough overview of the relevant mutant champions you can use Sentinel for. Now, I say relevant with like a little pinch of salt because maybe some of these characters aren't exactly super relevant, but they are geared to be defenders, and I wanted to show off as many realistic matchups as I could with Sentinel. I did not show him in matches where he's not good. You know, there's no Onslaught in here because he's not really good for Onslaught. It doesn't really work for Onslaught super well. And there is no Havoc in here. He's not the best counter for Havoc. Couple of mutants that he's just not really good for, but for the most part, he can generally take probably 80-85% of the mutant class, probably even a little higher than that. I'd have to look at every single mutant in the game, including, you know, the easy defenders like Colossus and Professor X and stuff like that. If I were to count those characters, then it's probably more on the 90% side, maybe 85-90. But we're just going to start off here with some fights that you have already seen. I've already showed off this Mr. Sinister fight in the last Sentinel video, but I figured it's good to show off again because it is one of Sentinel's best matchups. Mr. Sinister is a pretty annoying defender now. Ever since his buff, he is just ever so slightly more annoying on defense because of how he interacts with the self-bleed that he inflicts. But if you're a robot, that self-bleed is irrelevant because he cannot throw that debuff back to you and turn it into a degeneration. So Sentinel and a lot of other robots are exceptional counters for Mr. Sinister. The strategy that I like to use for Sinister with Sentinel is just spamming Special 1. The armor breaks are very potent, and that is such a long heal block to where Sinister is not even going to get a chance to really have any defensive threats because he's already dead from 2 Special 1s, essentially. So that's 44 seconds for a rank 3 7-star Mr. Sinister. All of these defenders that I'm showing off here on the CCP beta are short form content health pools 7-star rank 3 characters, and they're all Sig 200. So take that into consideration when looking at this. This video is specifically a short form content Sentinel showcase. The last video was more of a general overview of using Sentinel in more than short form content, but this specifically is for, you know, those Battlegrounds players, those war players out there who want to see which matchups in the mutant class Sentinel can take, because while he's geared towards mutants, he's not just good for mutants, he is good overall, but in short form content, I think his primary objective, no pun intended for the whole robot shtick, his primary objective would be to take out annoying mutants, and he can definitely do that. He definitely works for a lot of annoying mutant characters, like Weapon X. That was absolutely ridiculous. 45 seconds. This is not a mutant, but I figured I might as well add this video in because it's from the the power gain meta with Sentinel here. This is not part of the intended showcase, but I accidentally threw this clip in, so enjoy it. It was going to be its own separate video, but now it's part of this showcase. So this is the Power Shield root meta, and all Sentinel really needs to do in this meta is build up to 100 analysis charges, and then throw a special 2, and most opponents are going to die. This is a rank 5 Ascended Bullseye, so yeah, he basically has no chance. We're at 100 charges. Now all I need to do is sidestep into a special 2, and that's a rank 5 Ascended Bullseye just gone in a single special attack. There you go. Again, I wasn't supposed to have this in the video, but enjoy that little snippet of goodness. Now back to actually taking on mutant characters. This is Bishop. So Sentinel is not the most optimal counter for Bishop. The way you deal with it is a little unorthodox compared to his normal ramp up, but because Bishop is a mutant and because you don't need to use the heavy attack for the ramp up, all you need to do is hit the opponent's block 12 times as a mutant character, and you're already at your max analysis. So obviously you can't inflict Bishop with any type of Incinerate or Shock because he's going to deal that energy damage to you. So with Sentinel, you just use your Special 1. And the Special 1 at max analysis charges has a very, very nice duration on the armor break and that heal block. So we're going to capitalize from these 12 armor breaks here. We're going to throw a Relic into another Special 1, and before I can even throw the Special 1, Bishop is already dead. So yeah, that's 49 seconds for a rank 3 Bishop, 99% health. Pretty solid, you know, pretty solid stuff. Cannot complain one bit for that for that matchup. This is Negasonic Teenage Warhead. The goal here with Sentinel is just land the heavy counter initially, and again, the ramp up is 12 hits into block. If you're just hitting block and you're not baiting specials, it is 12 hits into block. That maxes out your analysis charges, and it makes you ready to go. Now, the matchup, like you've seen in the past couple of clips, the matchup is indicative of what specials you want to be throwing. For a matchup like this, NTW is not immune to Incinerate, so it makes a lot more sense for me to go for heavies and special 2s rather than going for special 1s only. Because, as you can see, NTW doesn't have a lot of health, and she is already gone. That is 270,000 health in 37 seconds. Now, I think I just skip ahead to... Oh, that's in the next clip. I skip ahead to another fight here, but I split the clip in two. This is a Sauron. Again, like I mentioned before, all of these champions are rank 3 7-star defenders, and Sentinel is made to counter mutants. Now, if this were a proper, legitimate Battleground showcase, these fights would be going even faster, because I would start the fight with 25 analysis charges. Now, in hindsight, I could have thrown the Sasquatch synergy in here to, like, really simulate what it's like to be a Battlegrounds match, but I figured just Sentinel by himself is worth showing off. I don't really need to do the full simulation because you're getting the general idea of what it's going to look like, give or take a couple of seconds of extra time in these specific matchups. But Sauron, we've used the special 1 here. I opted to go for the special 1 and not the special 2. I think the special 1 is fine for most matches. You don't even need the special 2 because of how potent the debuffs are from the special 1. Those armor breaks, they add up, man. They really do add up. And you feel the potency, especially at the max analysis charges, especially when he's awakened. So the Sentinel I'm running right now on the CCP beta is SIG 20. I do plan to take my Sentinel to around SIG 60. I think that's where I'm going to leave him, is around that SIG level where he's gaining 27% increased debuff duration. You really notice the difference using an Awakened Sentinel versus an Unawakened Sentinel. The extra ticks of damage over time from the Shock and the Incinerate, the longer duration on the Heal Block and the Armor Break, you really do notice the difference in Sentinel's effectiveness, and I am very excited to get my Sentinel awakened. Like I said, he is my favorite of the Gifted Guardians. I think he's just the most well-rounded of the characters. I don't think he's the absolute best attacker, but I do think in terms of defense, he is definitely the best out of the 6, and in terms of consistency with utility, he is right up there towards the top. I mentioned in my initial video on Sentinel that I think Sentinel is one of the best dual threat tech champions in the entire game. Most tech champions are either pure attackers or pure defenders. By the way, rank 3 7-star APOC in 44 seconds. Not too shabby, not too shabby. But like I said, most tech champions in the game are either pure attackers or pure defenders. Very rarely do we get someone like Future Ant-Man who can fulfill both roles. And even then, Future Ant-Man is much more geared to be defense, but obviously he's an incredible attacker as well. But Sentinel, he's kind of filling that role that a Future Ant-Man sort of held a monopoly over for a while as a dual threat tech character. And Sentinel is a 7-star that is relatively easy to access. I mean, there's going to be some kind of sale next week that gives the Banquet keys, so access to 7-star Sentinel is going to be wide for a strong majority of the community. So I'm looking forward to more people getting their hands on Sentinel and realizing the power. Obviously, he is not a 30-second tech nuke like Shocker, and, you know, even characters like Stark Spidey, they take around 35 to 40 seconds. Sentinel is not that far behind, and considering that this showcase is lacking those initial charges to start off with, Sentinel could be even faster. Probably in like the 40s, maybe even high 30s for time on some of these matches. So I think Sentinel, he just needs to warm up to the community a little bit. I feel like everyone is way too focused on Deadpool and his ridiculous damage. I do plan to make a video on Deadpool once I have him on my main account, because Deadpool is very fun, and I do like him a lot. I plan to take him up to rank 3. But I think overall, Sentinel is probably, you know, if you were to hand a new player one of these characters, I think the best character to hand them would be Sentinel. The utility he has from immunities, and then the armor break, heal block, incinerate, shock, the full life model decoy replacement from his special 3 is really strong, and while it's not super useful in short to medium form content, I could absolutely see it being useful in longer form questing content where your Sentinel's getting beat up pretty bad, you intentionally go into a matchup with low health and then just get to your special 3 and you're back at full health with no ailments on you. So I think Sentinel is just an incredible character. I don't think he's the best tech in the game, even though some CCP members may have heard me say that accidentally on the way to Vancouver headquarters, but I do think he's one of the best tech dual threats in the game, and I do stand by that considering the 7-star power level and my personal experience fighting him and using him. I think he is very high up there in the tech dual threat department. So I've just glossed over a lot of the fights here. It's just kind of the same rotation. It's either I build up and I go for special 2, or I build up and I go for multiple special 1s. And for Kitty Pryde, I go for multiple special 1s. Those armor breaks are lasting quite a long time, plenty of time for me to go in for a full combo here. I don't even need to go for the full special 1 again. I just need to have the initial hit land, and Kitty already dead. Kitty had around 270,000 health, so a little on the lower side comparatively speaking, but it's not like those health pools are completely obsolete. It's not like I'm showing this guy off in 170,000 health matchups, because that's, compared to where the game is now, those health pools are from years behind. Those health pools are from a time where characters were not at this power level, and power creep has built up to the point where now these are more modern and relevant health pools. So I do have Domino in this video. I want to be very clear here in saying that Sentinel is not a Domino counter. But if you absolutely needed to use somebody for Domino, Sentinel can do okay. Obviously, you're going to feel that crit fail damage with dexterity and with your parry failing and stuff like that. But the good thing about Sentinel is his analysis charges, they should not be affected by ability accuracy, and once he's at his full ramp, all of his debuffs gain increased ability accuracy, so Domino can't fail them. The only thing you have to worry about failing in this matchup is parry and dexterity. So yeah, right there, and then the evade triggers and my unfazed to not trigger, so that is something else that you have to worry about in this specific matchup. But for the most part, if you take away the unfazed and the parry and dex fail, Sentinel finishes that fight against a rank 3 Sig 200 Domino with 80% health. It's not the best, but it is far from the worst. I think, yeah, this video's over. It is far from the worst. It is far from the worst. Again, not a Domino counter, but if you absolutely needed to use him, you could. Final 2 fights here, we have Toad, and then Iceman is the last fight. If you did not know, Sentinel gained some more immunities from his buff. He is now immune to Cold Snap, Frostbite, and Armor Break. So you can take Magneto and not have to worry about the damage from the Armor Break hurting you, and certain armor break characters like, I don't know, Cosmic Ghost Rider and other characters like Medusa are extremely less effective for Sentinel because of his newfound immunities. So you can't nuke him. Another thing about Sentinel is he's kind of a tank on defense now. That's where I keep saying that dual threat potential that Sentinel has is extremely high, especially if he's awakened with that armor giving him power gain when it expires. Yeah, I think Sentinel has very high potential to be a very strong dual threat. So this last fight here is against Iceman. I do have a dust that I might show off. I've already shown it off in another video, so it probably isn't worth showing off again because it isn't Sentinel's best matchup, but it is a matchup that could work. Iceman, though, is a matchup that Sentinel is very good for, now that he is immune to Cold Snap. You can just immediately go into the fight, don't worry about any additional chip damage, and Sentinel, he's going to take you all the way to victory. You can, I mean, if you really want to, you can just do what I do right here and throw a heavy against the opponent when their back is against the wall. You are unstoppable, and at 100 analysis charges, you are taking basically no damage. So it doesn't really matter when you decide to throw that heavy, because even if you get hit, you're going to take next to no damage because of your analysis charges, and the unstoppable is going to tank that first hit and allow you to immediately continue your onslaught with the heavy attack. Yeah, this is not even to mention that Sentinel has an ability to drain his own power bar from 3 bars, where if you are at 3 bars of power and you use a heavy attack, you can drain your own power bar to inflict an additional shock, and then you can throw a special 2 right after because you're no longer at 3 bars of power. So Sentinel is just absolutely ridiculous. I love him so much. I really do think that the community just needs to warm up to him a little bit. I think overall Sentinel is a pretty great character. I'm trying to find a good ending screen to look at here. Almost. Almost. There we go. Perfect. So I think Sentinel is a pretty great character overall. I think this buff is extremely solid, and I want to be totally clear. I'm not trying to convince you to rank Sentinel if you don't like him. I just happen to like Sentinel a lot, and now that he's buffed, now that I have him at 7-star rank 3, I will have him awakened very soon. I'm a huge fan, and I will try to show him off in as much content as I possibly can because I do think he's a very valuable character to have, not only for early game players, for end game players as well. He might not fill every utility niche in every situation, but there will probably be matchups down the line where Sentinel is like the guy, and people who have the 7-star are going to prosper. So, thank you all very much for watching this Sentinel showcase. I think the title of this video is going to be something along the lines of every relevant mutant buff Sentinel can handle, something similar to that chime that sounds like that. So, thank you all for sticking around. If you watch the video until the very end, you know I love you and I appreciate that. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. It helps me out, helps the channel out. If that's something you are interested in doing, I would greatly appreciate it, as well as hitting that like button. Both of those things greatly help me out, helps the channel get out there to more people, and it shows the YouTube algorithm that I'm doing something that people are enjoying. Again, thank you all very much, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.